Yo, what's up, guys? I would say we are due a new 2A, and I think everyone can agree on that. Also, where the hell is this thing? Like the fifth one, we got four already. Oh, wait, we got five. That sixth one still ain't open yet. First, I'm gonna look at how long have we been waiting for this already and when were the last few big updates and how long has it been for new 2As but also for the last big update in general. And then we're gonna look at which units would I like to see as a 2A and then also think about what are the most likely units to get. So first of all, trip down memory lane. Let's see when Sakran was released. So I did manage to find the video in which they showcased the release of Sakran, which was dated all the way back to, wait, from here you can see it, 10th of March, 2 years ago. So that is pretty much right now close to 2.5 years ago. That has been a really long time ago. Around this time, they also did release the Darien, and I think they released the Megans. Am I correct on that one? Yep, Megan family and the Darien family. So that is a good 2.5 years ago since the last time that we had any new dimensional thing open, except for, of course, Dimensional Raid. You can kind of count that as well. But I also did look up that one. Dimensional Raid came together with the units which are the Frankensteins and the Living Armors, which also dated back to August 2023. That is also a very long time ago. In other words, more than a year and like a month or two right now. Yeah, that's been like decent amount of time, a good 14 months that we haven't seen any. Then we could also look at like, okay, what is the time difference between 10th of March and the 25th of August? Which kind of leads into a year and a half or a little bit less than a year and a half, which is also kind of on the point where we're getting close to right now. So might it be, which some people are hinting towards, that one of these last events that we have with the 10x10 kind of thingy, would that be one of the things that would actually be a new 2A? Because if we fit that time frame where they would make like a new unit every year plus a little bit more, or new 2A every year plus a little bit more, then it could be coming in the 9th, which is the late October one, which I think we will see probably in the week of the 28th of October. But then again, I'm just educated guess, nothing else than that. So yeah, in the end, it has been quite a while. Also, this whole dimensional thing, well, it's chill for the dimensional thing where we just saw it for a little bit, where you get, or you don't have to farm the Predator, you just get the runes from the event reward, whatever that is. That was a nice update in the end. Also, kind of the Predator was not that hard to do. The Dimensional Rift or Raid, whatever it's called, I don't think anyone is farming it, and it's also not that great. It is decent to get grinds in from things that you really didn't have yet, and you normally don't farm. So for that part, it does help out a little bit. Also, those Living Armors, I think just Tractors used a little bit. We see a little bit of usage for Driller, and then even Copper is so far out of meta. Same for Bulls, those that we barely see any of those. These two units, or there's a few in the families that do have some interesting interactions. It's also fun how they show like it ending right over there where you don't see the final one yet. It's like, yep, we're not even gonna talk about it. We're just gonna put it over here. We're not gonna even put it over there. So yeah, that's one of those things as well. Then I also did look into when was the last big update, which was on June 23rd of 2023, which was the Reloaded, well, it was the showcase of the update of the Reloaded thing. This is the only one that I could find like when it actually was. However, Reloaded was not received that well. It was the time where I pretty much had to make videos like, yo, don't farm Abyss hard because drop rates are terrible. It is too difficult for most people. And it's just not worth the 9 energy that you have to spend in. You might as well just keep farming P10s. They fixed all of that pretty much after SWC, which was around, I think, the 5th of November or 4th of November last year. So they did took a decent amount of time between the 23rd of June and the 4th of November or 5th of November. Don't exactly remember, but it was like first week of November, where they fixed all of those things. And then they actually made a lot of things very good. It's been a long time since a good big updates. Will we be getting any this year, or would they just be like, no, we're too busy on 10th anniversary and a bunch of collabs and fuck your updates? I don't know, man, I don't know. But let's see, 2As. I still have decent hopes for the 10th one in the 10x10 to be something big, at least a big event. They better go out with a banger, otherwise it's going to be, in the end, anything that happens, you always remember the last thing that happened, most likely. So for that reason, if they make a very good last event, we would even forget about the 8th event right now that is really garbage. But if they would finish with something that we have on the 8th right now as a 10th, we call the whole 10th anniversary garbage. So well, let's hope they use that psychology to make the 10th one really crazy. Who knows what it will be. But then to the core of the video, 2As. We have a whole bunch of 2As already. A lot of them are actually not used as much anymore. There's also this feeling and this idea that a lot of people have is that they don't want to make 2As because 2As are too free to play and they don't make any money off 2As. Well, as of recently, they have been doing more 2A skins. I'm not sure how the skin sales is compared to like re-up sales or rune sales or scroll sales or anything like that. I do think it is not that great, but then it's just me personally. I don't care that much about skins, plus I get them through just farming anyways. But I do know there's a lot of games like League of Legends and whatnot. They just run on like skin sales altogether. So I wouldn't be surprised if the skin sales still do pretty decent and therefore it is worth something for them to make 2As and then the 2A skins as well. But I'm not 100% sure about that. So at least that way they have some reason to make more 2As and get some money from it, I guess. But yeah, these are the 2As we have. I would say a lot of them are not really used anymore. Also, some of them that we thought like, oh, if you make a 2A out of this, it's going to be way too OP. Well, the thing is, which they did with the Kali is it was pretty strong, but it was not that crazy strong to the point where you would be like, okay, this becomes like the absolute most OP thing out there ever. So for that reason, we can actually take a family that is 3-star that's already decent and still assume that it could be 2-8. And therefore get something interesting. So let's look at the units that I personally want the most on 2A and then look at some units that have potential to be 2A and also be good at specific slots already, where I thought out of like, okay, if they make a 2A for this, because a lot of the 2As in the end are either getting into Siege, a lot of the 2As are providing PvE stability or just making it able to run. There's not too many 2As that are actually working towards RTA. So wouldn't really say that any 2A is going to be like super RTA focused ever. Sure, we do have the Asher out there, but I think Asher right now, I might be missing one, but I think Asher currently is pretty much the only RTA unit from all of the 2As. Sure, we had Lulu in the past, sure, we had Mina, Miho, Vigor in the past, but currently in high ranks, you don't see those all together. Miho maybe a little bit here and there if someone makes a mistake in draft and goes full crit rate and then forgets that you can't actually kill a Miho that way. But that is somewhat rare. However, there's a lot of units that are good for arena, like that Seth. I recently made a video on this thing, which is an arena nuker. There's a lot of things for Siege in here. Jolton is great in Siege. Asher, of course, great in Siege. Bernard is still used a lot in Siege. I think all of the Tractor Frankenstein families are pretty good for Siege. Vigor great for Siege, Lulu great for Siege. So it's often Siege related or PvE related, because PvE, I don't even have to get started, like a lot of them are good at PvE. So let's look at the units that I would like to see most for a 2A. Well, first and foremost, Drunken Masters. I think Drunken Masters would be so freaking insane as 2A. Why? Well, first of all, they all have guild leads. So we have a 16 guild lead over here. But the main interesting thing about these units is skill 1 always has ignore defense. They don't do all too much damage, but the big issue is their base stats are just horribly low. Even if you don't change the kits of any of those units and you make them 2A, aka a 4.5-star in base stats, they would absolutely be insane. Like, just look at those, like the skill 2s for a lot of them are not that interesting. Okay, this one has recovery and then also anti-crit. This one, same one, this one, same one, and this one just has that rolling. But the third skills on those units are actually insane. Like this one, attack power and then hit something with a chance to also get that skill 1 back. Attack bar increase, speed increase, that is really nice as well. Wind 1 has a chance for defense break, recovers. There's just so much going on in these guys' kits here. Recovery as well, and the heal block. And then this one, continuous damage and increase the crit rate. So there's just a lot of things going on for these kits. If you add a slight little bit to that and make them 4.5 stars, they would absolutely be insane, super meta. And therefore, I think they might be a little bit too strong, even like RTA related, that they might not do these, but would still be my personal favorite to get 2As in. One that a lot of people do expect, and I expect as well, is the Hellhound family, Hellhound family. They do like to go for these units that used in the past and now currently not used as much anymore, and to kind of revive those. Of course, the Seek and the Tark, they're used to, well, Tark not anymore. Well, Tark is actually still used in the R5 team for team up. Seek is currently being used mainly in the Spiritual Realm, and also in PC Abyss Heart, the fastest team out there with the Sonya. An interesting thing that they could do to this unit, if they really want to make it super nice and super niche for PvE, they would have to lower this cooldown by 1 more. What does that mean? That means that Zeke in every wave can do his skill 3. Would that be too OP? It would be decently OP, but it would also be very interesting because that means every wave and also every mid-wave boss, everything, you will have attack buff and crit rate buff, and they gave perfect AI to this unit. So if they want to make this one really cool and really nice, they should give that 2A just 1 lower cooldown on this, which means you can have Zeke into your Julie one-shot the waves. Then the next thing, you have a Zeke into your damage dealers one-shot the mid-boss. And therefore, Dragon's teams becomes a lot easier to do. This would mainly be a thing that improves Dragons a lot. Probably PC Abyss Heart a decent amount. And also SF Abyss Heart. Like those 3 dungeons would be very much elevated by Zeke getting a higher active or well, a lower cooldown on this. Because the skill 1 and skill 2, even if you would change something to it, it wouldn't really change too much for those teams in the first place. So if you want to change anything, cooldown on this one. And that's about it. Dark, it's hard to say where you would say like, oh, just team up with more units because Ikaru already does that, right? So you would kind of have to change anything for this that makes it slightly different. I'm not entirely sure how you would do that, where you would do that, but it would be something revolving around that team up for sure. Gamir is one of those units that pretty much no one really thought of, no one really uses. I think this is just pretty much like a whole rework of the passive, and then you could go any route on that. Same for both the light and the dark. They could be pretty interesting. This is by base technically the fastest unit in game because he's 113 on base plus another 15. So yeah, this is definitely one of those units. If they change the whole kit, I could see them being used for something siege related, but those 2 are very PvE related, which are used a lot, which I could see being a 2A. Another interesting family would be the Amazons, mainly because of Lyn. If you add any stats to Lyn, she already becomes just so much better. Well, to be honest, she doesn't really need stats because she just needs crit damage and crit rate. But yeah, if you add something more to these skills, currently she's a little bit outshined by a Luna. She's being outshined by a bunch of other things, the Wind Homunculus. But if you make it 2A, she definitely comes back into meta. There's also a few other ones. Ellen is actually pretty interesting for TOA. It does have an AoE pushback and it has multi-hits and a bunch of freezes and a whole bunch of that kind of stuff. It is actually used in 4-star RTA here and there, so that could be an interesting unit that could help people out with TOA. Sure, you do have a Tyrone, but not everyone right away has a Tyrone, so that could be your free-to-play Tyrone kind of style of unit. Then for the other ones, I'm actually not too sure what they do. It is an anti-revive, could be an anti-passive thing in the end. There's one wall of text. Well, even the 3-stars have wall of text in these games. But yeah, I could see this family being pretty useful as well. The Beast Hunter is a pretty interesting family as well. I think it was mentioned at some point. I did try to find that video where they said like, okay, we made these 2As and then we had these and these in mind. But in the end, those weren't chosen. I thought it was on the Frankenstein and the Living Armor update video, but it wasn't in there. And I thought they were either mentioning the Beast Hunters or the Bounty Hunters. So for that reason, I would say that these have a chance to get 2A as well. I would say especially Nungrim. Nungrim is already a pretty interesting unit. If this would go up all the way to 100%, he would be pretty interesting for a lot of dungeons. I could see this being used especially in Steel Fortress, PC Abyss, even in Dragons. There's definitely a good strong kit to Nungrim in the first place. Plus this family does have Dungeon Lead. Is there one that has... Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Why do you have Dungeon Lead, you Arena Lead, you Arena Lead, Dungeon Lead again, and then Arena Lead? Inconsistencies. Okay. Well, this one, don't even know what it does. I'm not really sure. Like, sure, there's always one that kind of goes like 0 to hero and kind of stuff. But one that's already used is Hundra. It's mainly used for units that have invisibility and then giving the invisibility to this thing all the time because he has an ignored defense on the skill 3. If he has invisibility, he doesn't go down in HP. So for that reason, he stays 4 HP and you can keep using that shot. It's a pretty strong skill. So if you make that 2A, would definitely be a strong one as well. Of course, I did mention already the Bounty Hunters. I think Bounty Hunters on a 2A would be very strong. This skill has the Ignore Defense Chain Fire skill on the skill 2. That does a lot of multi-hits potentially if you are getting lucky. It was the YDCB like special to get like random RNG stuff in. Crit rate buff, defense buff, not the greatest, but has some usability in there. I would see more feeling for Jamie, which has the remove harmful effects and then also attack power increase, which is a pretty interesting combination. So I definitely could see that being something interesting. Plus, they're already at 110 base speed, which does help out a bit as well. This is a pretty good stun unit in the first place. So I would say that family in general was pretty interesting. Then we had Marble being hinted from the Gwent card saying like, wait until I get my 2A. Well, we're still waiting. Marble, we're still waiting. Probably more a Contours problem than a Marble problem, but let's look at these units if they were to get a 2A. I think this family would be pretty darn strong for 2A. Why would that be? Well, the first hit is scaling from enemy max HP and your max HP. So that is definitely a strong hit that you could do towards any PvE dungeon. The skill 2, it's max HP. Skill 1, skill 2 are a little bit less interesting, but I could see this being useful for that. Of course, Basalt used to be the TOA god. The moment you pulled a Basalt, it was just so much better. I remember way back in the days where we normally had for G1 Arena Rush or anything higher than that, you get a 3-star unit, and the moment that they put Basalt in there, everyone's like, yo, I gotta get that top 300 right now because Basalt is just too crazy good. Has that AoE pushback, has that AoE healing, and then has a provoke, and just does a lot of work. If you make it this 2A, it would absolutely be one of the better units for TOA for sure again. Maybe even TOA 18 Dark. No, that stage is still shit. I don't even want to talk about it. Olivine, this is one of those very interesting units. We are known to have Nem traps. Did you know that Olivine is actually the very first Nem trap ever used that I can remember? And then we're talking like season 2 or something. Well, what did Olivine do? Well, he had pretty much, it was literally drafted as a super low level unit to get this in. You have an AoE cleanse on an increased attack bar of 40%. There's not too many units in the game currently that have a 40% attack bar increase. I can only think of like Frigate with 50, but this also has an AoE cleanse on top of that. Mostly this thing is annoying in one of the later TOA hard stage that we see. If you add something more to this kit, that could be a very nasty unit. Talk, of course, crazy tank, but then again, we also have Camilla, that's a great tank. We have Rena, that's a great tank. We already have a lot of great tanks, so do we really need more water tanks? I'm not sure. This thing, I'm not even sure what it does. And sure, there's a lot of other families that could be pretty interesting in the first place. For example, these things, mainly with the Yaku, the wipeout skill, that was the way to kill the giants way back in the days. Of course, you also have the 2-star version of it, Taru, ignore defense. Plus, he's a 2-star. If you make this 4.5-star, this thing is gonna hurt. Charge the sharks. There's actually so many options where I could see units being useful. This thing, we still don't really have a super proper, really good buff blocker for SF Abyss. If you make this thing 4.5-star, maybe he might be the one. Probably still not. But yeah, a lot of good options out there for 2As. Let me know in the comments which 2As you would like to see most. And let's hope that Countess comes in with those 2As anytime soon. But I do have this feeling that we might get a 2A this year, mainly because there hasn't been a 2A this year yet. There hasn't been any big patches yet. Plus, it's been pretty much around the same time as between the last 2A and the second to last 2A. So who knows? Just a feeling. Guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, let me know in the comments which 2A you would like to see most, plus where would you like to use it, and hope to see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.